Hello everyone. It's been a rather long time since I've done a video in the vlog format. Anyway, I just wanted to do a vlog again because I've been doing a lot of off-road videos. I've been riding my Versys-X 300 off-road for a while now in Singapore, of course, and a lot of Singaporeans in general, they have a belief that riding your motorcycle off-road in Singapore for the most part is illegal unless it's on private property and with the permission of the land's owner. I mean, it kind of was sparked by the events that happened at the tail end of 2020 when the LTA, the Land Transport Authority of Singapore, did a raid or sting operation at Tampines Quarry, which was a very popular hangout for dirt bikers. And suffice to say, several dirt bikes and electric bicycles were impounded, confiscated, and there were several, of course, monetary fines handed out in the process as well. And then literally after that event happened and it spread over Facebook, everybody thought, you know, wow, our government is literally taking away every single last vestige of fun they can possibly get their hands on. You know, now riding your motorcycle off-road is illegal, but the truth is, it's not. Riding bikes off-road has always been technically legal, as long as it's not specified as being illegal somewhere in the statutes of our law. For the most part, it is considered a legal thing to do. Now, the thing is, a lot of people have this misconception that it's illegal because to begin with, most of the time when you ride a motorcycle and you park on a grass verge like the ones by the roadside, you get a fine. People think that a motor vehicle, the moment they go off the road, you know, where they are legally allowed to be, is automatically considered illegal. But we have to break down the law a bit. Now, to understand whether riding off-road in Singapore is legal or not, you have to understand basically land ownership laws. In Singapore, there's pretty much only 3 kinds of ownership that kind of exist. Most of the land in Singapore is owned by the state. The next portion of it is mostly owned by government-linked corporations or state-backed entities that is not the state itself. And then the last would of course be private entities like, you know, private developers, malls, that sort of thing. So nobody can kind of argue the logic that, of course, if you are riding off-road on your motorcycle on private land with the permission of the landowner, anything goes, right? So that's kind of well understood. It's the same in almost any country out there that follows capitalist system of land ownership and pretty much you know how laws are worked out in most of the world where there's this kind of system. Now the thing is, we have to try and figure out whether riding a motorcycle off-road on state land is considered legal or not. In many countries in Europe, it's considered illegal unless clearly defined. But in those countries, these places are quite numerous and it's easy to find them. In Singapore, not so much. We are land scarce country, and to top it off, the government does not seem interested in regulating or specifying that this parcel of land or this stretch of trail is for motorized vehicle use. So for the most part, anybody that rides in off-road in Singapore is doing so without the well wishes of a state-backed entity. But we can definitely infer that it is very legal, of course, by looking at the State Lands Act and specifically the State Lands Encroachment Act. I'll leave the links to all my sources as far as I can get for you, for your easy reference, so that I can refer to it offhand. Now, under State Lands Encroachment Act, you are considered trespassing if you enter the land illegally to chop down trees, or to pluck the produce off the land, or basically it specifies those two things. And then on top of that, of course, there is commercial activity. Now, of course, when we are riding our motorcycle, we are not doing any of these things, but what we are doing is we are damaging the land that we ride on, because at the end of the day, motorcycles are high-powered vehicles. The dirt tires that we use will rip off the grass verge and damage the soil substrate underneath wherever we go. That's just a fact of riding motorcycles off-road, or any motor vehicle in general. The thing is that the state does not preclude you from entering state land. They cannot stop you from entering state land as a general statute, okay, because the roads are considered state land under purview of the Land Transport Authority. The grass verges are state land under the purview of entities like NParks. HDB housing estates are state land under the purview of the Housing Development Board. So all these places that you can freely walk over, in general, you have the right to access unless specifically stated so, like military bases and certain places that are marked as off limits, and they will have clear signs and a fence around them. So those are pretty clearly marked. Now we generally want to consider the offense itself, whether you can ride. Yes, you can enter this place, but whether you can operate a motor vehicle in these areas. In general, if we were to look at the Parks and Trees Act, the only thing that kind of talks about anything regarding a motor vehicle off a road and onto things like grass and dirt trails, they are generally covered under there. And in that particular act, it's kind of stated that it is an offense to park, which means specifically bring your vehicle to a stop on a grass verge, which is this, by the roadside. But it never says anything about moving, okay? But if you were to go down along the particular act itself, the Park and Trees Act, it does say that there is a provision for conserving green verges, which is all these, and heritage green verges in general. Basically, any land that is designated by the NParks Board to be a green verge. And this is a very huge distinction, because the Parks and Trees Act, they are specifically specifying that areas that are defined by NParks, the statutory board that is in charge of national parks and green verges, are the only ones that are covered under this particular act. So there is a particular application online provided by the Singapore Land Authority called One Map, where you can check out what parcel of land belongs to what government agency, and if that particular parcel of land states that it is under the NParks, you can, for pretty much better or worse, tell that riding your motor vehicle off-road on that parcel of land is illegal. But for the most part, if it's not a base or a military installation where it's specifically stated that you are not allowed to enter, all other kinds of state land is pretty much fair game when it comes to off-road. Of course, there are minor provisions to prevent that as well. For example, if you are in a HDB estate, okay, there are signs that say no parking or no riding of motor vehicles under the block or anywhere within the compound of a built-up housing estate itself. So if there are signs like this, specific beats generality when it comes to law, so you have to follow that. But if you were to look at one map and you were to see that a parcel of land is not owned by the N parks, and there is no signage that says that you are not allowed to ride a motor vehicle on it, and if you are entering a place that does not specifically prohibit entry, like military bases, then you can do so on that particular piece of land. And that is what I have been doing, those places that I have been doing. And for the record, Tampines Quarry is also covered under that particularly class of land. It's perfectly legal to ride your dirt bike there. So for those of you who are really howling at how they've suddenly made it illegal to ride your dirt bike in Tampines Quarry, it has never been illegal, and it still is not illegal to do so. The reason why those guys got their bikes impounded and had fines handed out to them was particularly related to parking their bikes on a green verge, and on top of that, the ones that were impounded were not registered. Now, a lot of people in Singapore are under the assumption, because we have this thing called COE and we have this thing called registration, and once a bike that's not under COE has to be deregistered and exported. You can't keep a deregistered motorcycle. So people think that the loophole to that is that if I were to buy a motorcycle that was never registered to begin with, then I can keep it in perpetuity as long as I do not use it on the roads. The thing is, in Singapore, motor vehicles all have to be registered. It does not matter whether you are keeping it on private property, it does not matter if you are using it in private land, and especially not when you are riding it on state land. Yes, on the road there are specific rules that mention that you have to use registered bikes that are under COE, that means they are not laid up, and you can still keep your laid up bikes, that means with the COE halted, laid up in storage on private property. But deregistered and unregistered motorcycles cannot even be in Singapore to begin with, unless you are under special license by a specific authority as a specific business entity, like a scrap metal dealer or an importer or exporter of such vehicles. So these people that had their vehicles impounded were basically riding illegal vehicles that were not registered to begin with, and that's why they were impounded. But for the vast majority of guys right now that are riding without any issues from the Land Transport Authority of Singapore at Tampines Quarry, where it's a freaking huge hotspot, and the LTA knows about it and once in a while checks up on it to conduct checks. The ones that don't get in trouble are the ones that, you know, they lawfully have their vehicles registered, and if they don't want to pay the COE, they just lay it up. But whatever it is, they have a registered vehicle and they are riding on state land where it's legal to do so. Now, one more thing is that a lot of people have been asking me where I ride my bikes off-road, and I don't reply to those comments. And the thing is, while I am absolutely sure that what I do is perfectly legal, and I am not in any way trying to stop people from actually using the same trails that I use. I welcome anybody that can find it to ride it if you find it, but I'm not sharing it, because The thing is, I personally believe in not sharing trail information or trail locations. If you manage to find it and I meet you on the trail, I welcome you to use it. It's your own right as a citizen of this country to use state land within the ambit of the law. And from time to time, if I trust somebody to use the trails respectfully without damaging them or bringing undue attention to the sport itself, I do invite those people to ride with me as well, and I have done so actually. But I don't really like to share trail information publicly on social media and tell everybody where the hell I'm riding, because number one, like I said, it brings undue attention to the particular location. And Tampines Quarry already has that reputation where, you know, the authorities consistently kind of come and check. I know I'm legal, I'm not going to get in trouble, but you know, you just don't like it when people come and I don't know, annoy you on your trail ride. And the second thing is that for the most part, most people, to be honest, it may sound very negative, but I believe for the most part, people don't really respect the land they use. They litter, they damage the trails. I ride my mountain bike, my fat bike, on the Mandai T15 trail, and the litter there is so insane. There's so much littering going on, and it's not really just a Singaporean thing, but it's an everybody thing. The foreigners that visit, they go there, they litter. The locals, they visit, they go there and litter, and it falls onto the workers to clean up the place. I mean, it is their job, but I mean, there is still a window of time where between the litter being thrown on the ground and the workers actually clearing up. And they also don't work every single day, right? And I don't particularly like it when I go on a trail and I see litter everywhere. I see torn trails, torn ruts all over the place. And the thing is, that kind of thing happens in Tampines Quarry and Mandai T15 with the dirt bikes and the mountain bikes respectively, and I just don't want that same thing to happen to the trail that I use for my own enjoyment. And that's why I don't want to share publicly. But if you find it and I see you on the trail, I would welcome you to use it. Of course, I would probably remind you to, you know, be respectful to the trail, use it responsibly, and yeah, that's about it. I'm not gonna stop you, definitely. And that's all I have to say about it. If you think that's a very useful piece of information to know about being able to ride off-road or not in Singapore, then good for you. Leave a thumbs up and follow my channel if you like. And I will see you next time. Peace out. Bye bye.